Field, and Wrigley Gum. Same guy for all three. Wrigley was built in two sections in 1921 and 1924 because there used to be a train line running through the middle there. There's a little bridge in the middle they had to add that a few years ago. The people that worked in the offices got tired of going all the way down and all the way back up just to go next door. The face of that clock is 2 stories tall. Its minute hand is longer than a row of white chairs where many of you are sitting on right now. The tower itself of the Wrigley building was inspired by a Spanish cathedral called La Giralda, which is in Seville, Spain. In the beginning of Chicago's history, the architects here didn't really have their own styles just yet. They were copying European styles because that's what was popular at the time. So this is called the Spanish Revival style of architecture. And the Wrigley building is covered in 250,000 glazed terracotta tiles, which are all very delicate. But they do need to be hand washed. Straight ahead of us is our second tallest building in the city, the Trump International Hotel and Tower, designed by Adrian Smith and built in 2009. This style is called contextualism because it matches and flatters its context, its neighbors, often with mirrored glass windows. It's got 3 terraces. Notice the first terrace is 16 floors. It's the same height as the rooftop of the Wrigley, intentionally matching. Recognize those from scenes in Batman Begins, for example, where he's standing up there on one of those looking down at the city below. And he realized his purpose in life. I just watched it last night, so I remember. It's on Netflix now. Anyway, the Jewelers building was originally designed with a car elevator so that the jewelers could just drive straight in and get lifted up to the front door and not have to walk through the scary parking lot where the mafia might be lurking in the 20s ready to snatch up all those jewels. Here right are everybody's favorite giant twin corncob towers, Marina City. Marina City was designed by Bertrand Goldberg in the 60s. His idea was to bring people to come live downtown. A self-sustaining complex with its own laundromat, grocery stores, retail shops, bowling alleys, cinema, restaurants, and more. Even a marina downstairs for its residents' boats to stay safely year-round. They have bubbler machines that agitate the water in the winter, so this water won't freeze even if the rest of the river does. You can see also 18 floors of parking spaces, which are valet only, because there's just a little thin wire right there. And some of those spots you can see hang out over the river a little bit. So you might be looking at those car spots and thinking to yourself, has anybody ever just driven a car into the river from up there? And the answer would be on top of a shiny modern tower. That is 77 West Wacker, a nice example of the neoclassical style. Neoclassical is a fusion of the new and the old together in perfect harmony. Barcelona, and built in 1992. It's definitely one of my favorites. Back to your right, you see a red brick building. That's the Reed Murdoch Center. Look carefully. You can actually count. It's got 6 bays of windows east of the clock tower, but only 5 bays of windows west of the clock tower. And that's because they had to destroy a section of this building in the 20s to make space for the expansion of LaSalle Street here. Because in the 20s, Chicago was growing rapidly and needed that space. I'm sure these architects were not too happy about that change. Called 300 North LaSalle. My favorite feature of this building is that lovely little steakhouse they have downstairs called Chicago Cut. Next to it, you'll see an older building with a 3-part design and large windows. The style is called First Chicago School of Architecture. This style came about when the architects here started gradually growing away from the European styles and began creating their own unique Chicago styles. They're coming of age over 100 years ago. Smart, built in the Art Deco style. Art Deco always has deep inset windows, vertical racing stripes, polished Indiana limestone, and repetitive geometric shapes. Merchandise Mart Has also these 8 busts in the front that look like giant Pez dispensers. Those are portraits of the 8 merchant princes of Chicago, who were all wealthy businessmen that helped the city grow years ago by investing in it. Those were in smart, occupies 2 city blocks. It has 7.5 miles or 10 kilometers of hallways inside. It's got mainly offices and showroom floors. That's its main purpose, but they've also got lots of nice little restaurants, court, a little bit fancier than normal. You can walk in and it's a nice building. And they've got little shops, a few shops, and an hair salon, of course, and they also have their own train station. That's what's making all that noise right now, the train leaving it. The confluence of the 3 branches of the Chicago River. This is where it all started. Years ago, with a settlement of fur trappers. The first thing they built here were 3 taverns because priorities, right? That settlement eventually grew to become the town of Chicago in the 1830s, and it has not stopped growing since then. Straight ahead of us is another tall glass tower with arches on the top and the bottom. This one that looks like a large hot pocket. This is River Point. And River Point has the arch on the bottom because that section is built over the train tracks, and you cannot block the trains with your building, so they had to go around it. I think it looks better that way. Underneath the arch, just a few years ago, they put that red spiral sculpture that is called Constellation by Santiago Calatrava, another famous Spanish architect known for his spiral designs and lofty ambitions. We are now slowly entering the north branch of the Chicago River. The Fulton House. Fulton House was built in 1898, so that makes this the oldest building that we will see today on the tour. When Fulton House was built, it did not have any windows, and its walls were about this thick, because Fulton House was a giant meat freezer. Chicago was the hog butcher to the world. They had to store it somewhere. But now it's a residential building. How did it get from freezer to residence so quickly? Well, it wasn't quick. They had to sit and wait 3 months for all the ice to melt before they could do anything. The man in charge of its redesign, sailor and architect Harry Weiss, had them thin out the walls, carve out spaces for windows. You'll see he added nautical star detailing and round porthole windows up at the top. Being a sailor, Weiss liked nautical themes, and Weiss just loved the triangular silhouette of his favorite sailboat too. So, all right, let's continue. You may have noticed this big wide open bridge in front of us. That next one is Carroll Avenue Bridge. It's always open. It has train tracks on it, the same train lines that used to run through the 2 sections of the Wrigley Building. It's still working because you get money for after status. And leave it open because right there to the right is the street level. When they close the bridge, it comes down to here. If it were to close, we would not be able to pass through. The city knows